Have you ever been in the shower or lying in bed, arguing with someone who isn't even there anymore? Replaying what they said, fixing your comeback, feeling your chest tighten, even though the moment is already over. You check their last text again, you reopen the chat, you stalk their social media, and the more you look, the heavier your body feels. If that's you, stay with me. Because in this video, I want to show you one question that can shrink your resentment in a few seconds. And one Stoic practice that reminds you, your life is too short to be owned by old grudges. Let's be honest, you don't just get angry. You carry anger. A comment from 3 months ago, a fight from last year, something your parents said when you were a kid. You say you've moved on, but some nights, the movie in your head hits play again. Same scene, same lines, same tightness in your chest. You overthink every message. You imagine what you should have said. You feel guilty for being angry. And then you get angry at yourself for not letting it go. Here's my promise for this video. By the end, you'll understand a simple Stoic idea called Memento Mori. Remember that you will die, not as something dark and depressing, but as a very practical tool to drop small dramas faster. And you'll walk away with 2 or 3 concrete exercises you can use tonight. When you get a cold text, when someone snaps at you, or when your brain wants to reopen an old wound for the 100th time. If you're tired of feeling heavy, this is for you. 1. What resentment really is. Let's start with this. Resentment is not just being mad. Resentment is replaying a moment where you felt powerless and trying over and over again to win it in your head. It's that argument with your ex you keep editing. It's that coworker who embarrassed you in a meeting. It's that cousin who said something cruel at a family dinner. The moment ended. But your mind keeps saying, no, we're not done here. Now, here's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics had this phrase, Memento Mori. It literally means, remember, you will die. Not as a threat, not as a horror movie, but as a reminder. Your time, your attention, your emotional energy are limited. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. When you really feel that, even just for a few seconds, it changes the question. It's no longer, how do I win this argument in my head? It becomes, is this how I want to spend the limited time I have? Imagine you get a passive-aggressive text from someone. Old way, you spend 3 hours crafting the perfect reply, talking to your friends about it, checking if they're online. New way, you pause, remember Memento Mori, and quietly ask, if today was my last day, would I give this text 3 hours of my life? That question alone can start to loosen resentment. But there's a reason it's so hard to let go. Let's go a little deeper. 2. Why we get stuck in resentment. First reason, your brain hates feeling powerless. When someone hurts you, disrespects you, or misunderstands you, you often can't go back and redo the moment. You can't rewind the meeting. You can't unsay what you said. You can't make them suddenly understand. So your mind does the next best thing. It builds a simulation where you win. You replay the scene where you destroy them with a perfect line. You imagine finally telling them off. You imagine them apologizing and saying you were right all along. Your mind is trying to give you power after the fact. But the cost is huge. Your peace, your focus, your sleep. Seneca warned about this very thing. He said, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? The cause was one comment. The consequence is hours, days, sometimes years of emotional weight. Let me ask you, how many hours of your life have you already spent arguing with people who weren't in the room? Second reason, resentment becomes part of your identity. You start to tell a story. I'm the one who was betrayed. I'm the one no one respects. I'm the one they treated unfairly. And that story can actually feel safe. Because if you let go of the resentment, you might have to let go of the identity that came with it. Who are you if you're not the one who was wronged? What do you talk about if you're not telling the same pain story again? Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Resentment is your reaction on repeat. It becomes a lens you see the world through, and lenses can be hard to put down. Third reason, your environment rewards your resentment. Think about it. When you complain to your friend group, they might hype you up. You're right, they're trash, I'd never forgive that. When you post vague, angry quotes on social media, people like and comment and say, same. Without noticing, you build a little echo chamber around your pain. You start feeling more connected to people through shared anger than through shared growth. But here's the problem. Echo chambers feel good and keep you stuck. So if resentment is this sticky, how do we actually let it go without pretending nothing happened? That's where our framework comes in. And we're going to build it around Memento Mori. 3. Using Memento Mori to release resentment. I want to give you 4 practical tools. You don't have to use them all at once. Think of them like 4 different handles on the same heavy box. You just need one good grip to start lifting. We'll go step by step. Step 1. Name the wound, not the enemy. Most resentment sounds like, they're so toxic. They never respect me. They're a narcissist. Notice what all of those have in common. They keep the spotlight on them. Now, the Stoic move is different. You bring the focus back to your wound, not their label. Instead of, they're horrible, you quietly say, I felt humiliated when they said that. I felt abandoned when they didn't show up. I felt invisible when they talked over me. This feels small, but it's actually huge. When you name the wound, you move from attack to awareness. You can't heal what you refuse to name. Exercise number 1. The one-sentence truth. Next time you feel resentment rising, grab your phone or a notebook. Write just one sentence that starts with, what actually happened was, for example, what actually happened was, my friend canceled last minute and I felt unimportant. What actually happened was, my coworker dismissed my idea in front of the team. No drama, no exaggeration, just the clean, boring truth. Then ask yourself, what feeling am I fighting right now? Is it shame, rejection, fear of not mattering? The moment you do this, the story in your head becomes less about their character and more about your own pain, which is something you can work with. Remember this. You can't drop the weight if you're not honest about what you're carrying. Step 2. Remember the ending, the Memento Mori check. Now we bring in Memento Mori directly. Marcus Aurelius, again, wrote many times about how short life is. One of his ideas, paraphrased, is, do not waste what remains of your life on useless thoughts. So here's a very practical way to use that. Exercise number 2. The 60-second mortality check. When your resentment starts to spike, your heart beats faster, you're rehearsing comebacks, you're checking their last scene. Pause. Put your hand on your chest. Take one slow breath in and one slow breath out. Then ask yourself, out loud if you can, if today was my last day on earth, would I spend it replaying this Really picture it. Imagine someone tells you, you have 24 hours left. Would you want your final day to be about that text, that look, that rude moment? Most of the time, the answer is a quiet no. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it's not big enough to deserve that much of your life. This doesn't magically delete the pain, but it shrinks it. It takes your resentment from everything to one small thing in a very short life. Remember this. Memento Mori isn't about death. It's about protecting the hours you have left. Step 3. Separate justice from rumination. Here's a big mistake. We think that if we stop thinking about something, we're letting them get away with it. So we hold on. We replay the scene as if that somehow makes it fair. Stoicism doesn't ask you to pretend nothing happened. It asks you to separate two things. 1. What needs action? 2. What is just mental noise? Epictetus would say we should focus on what's in our control and drop what isn't. He put it simply, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. So here's how to apply that. Exercise number 3. The 3-question filter. When you're stuck on resentment, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Is there a real action I need to take? Do I need to have a calm conversation, set a boundary, leave the job, block the number? 2. Is this action possible and safe for me right now? Or am I fantasizing about a confrontation that will never happen? 3. If I took that action, would more thinking actually help? Or am I just feeding the fire? If there is a real action you can take, write it down, schedule it, decide when and how you'll do it. If there is no action, then tell yourself the truth. This is not a problem to solve. This is a feeling to feel and release. Justice is what you do. Rumination is what you repeat. Remember this. Set the boundary in real life. Stop fighting the ghost in your head. Step 4. Give your resentment a tiny funeral. Remember at the start, I said I'd show you a small ritual? This is it. Because sometimes, even after you name the wound, do the Memento Mori check and run the 3-question filter. The feeling still lingers. That's okay. You're human. So we do something symbolic. We give that resentment a tiny funeral. No candles, no drama. Just a clear moment where you decide. This is where I stop feeding this story. Here's how. Exercise number 4. The 30-second tiny funeral. Close your eyes. Picture the scene that keeps replaying. The comment, the text, the moment. Now slowly zoom out in your mind. See yourself and that person from far away. See the city. See the world. See how small you both are. Then imagine a little box in front of you. Put that specific scene in the box. The words, the tone, all of it. Close the box. In your mind, place it on a shelf in a big, quiet library. And say softly, maybe even whisper, this happened. It hurt. But it doesn't get to run my life anymore. Then take one slow breath in, one slow breath out. And imagine turning around and walking away from that shelf. You're not erasing the memory. You're changing its job. It's no longer the main character. It's just one old book in a big library. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This little ritual is your way of saying, I'm done suffering in imagination about this one. Remember this. You don't have to forget to forgive. You just have to stop feeding the story. 4. How this looks in real life. Let's put this all together with a simple, relatable story. I'm going to talk to you as if this is you. Because for a lot of you, it will be. You're at work. You share an idea in a meeting, You're nervous, but you speak up. Your manager pauses. Then your coworker jumps in, talks over you. And 5 minutes later, your manager says, "Great idea, Jason," to the coworker who basically repackaged your point. No credit, no recognition, nothing. You laugh it off in the room, but inside, something clenches. On the way home, the resentment starts building. I knew they didn't respect me. He always does this. My manager never sees me. You replay the meeting 3, 4, 10 times. You imagine standing up and saying, actually, I just said that. Your chest feels hot. You don't enjoy your evening. You scroll on your phone just to numb out. Old you would go to bed with that same tightness. Wake up annoyed, maybe complain to a friend, and carry that resentment into the next week, the next month, maybe even the next performance review. New you tries something different. You sit on your bed, open your notes app, and do Step 1. Name the wound. You type. What actually happened was, I shared an idea, my coworker repeated it, and my manager gave them the credit. I felt invisible and disrespected. That's it. No, they always. No, they never. Just the truth. You notice? The real pain is feeling invisible. The real wound is, do I matter here? Already the resentment is less about them being evil and more about you wanting to be seen. That's more honest. That's something you can work with. Then you move to Step 2. The Memento Mori check. You close your eyes, hand on chest. One deep breath, you ask, if today were my last day, would I spend it replaying this meeting? And a part of you laughs, because, of course not. If you knew you only had 24 hours left, you wouldn't give this the whole evening. You feel the resentment shrink just a little. It's still there, but it's now a thing that happened, not the center of the universe. Next. Step 3. Separate justice from rumination. You ask, is there a real action I need to take? Yes. You decide you want to talk to your manager calmly about how your ideas are being credited. You think, is this action possible and safe? Yes. You can schedule a one-on-one. So will more thinking help, or am I just feeding the fire? More thinking won't help, but planning your words, once, clearly, will. So you jot down a simple script for tomorrow. Hey, in yesterday's meeting, I shared an idea that was later credited to Jason. I want to make sure my contributions are visible. How can we handle that better next time? Clear, grounded, no drama. Action noted. Now you don't need to rehearse the argument 40 times. You just need to show up once. Finally, before bed, you do. Step 4. Tiny funeral. You imagine the meeting scene in your mind. You picture your coworker, your manager, yourself sitting there. You zoom out. You see the whole building, the city, the world. You imagine putting that specific moment into a little box, placing it on a shelf. You whisper, this happened. It hurt. But it doesn't get to run my life. One breath in, one breath out. You don't feel 100% amazing. This isn't a Netflix movie. But you feel lighter. Enough to watch a show, talk to someone you love, or just rest without the same tight loop of anger. The next day, you have that one-on-one. You speak calmly. You set a boundary in real life instead of only in your imagination. That's what using Memento Mori and these tools looks like. Not fake positivity. Not pretending it didn't hurt. Just refusing to give small moments a giant share of your short life. 5. What you lose if you don't let go. Let's bring this home. If you stay the same, if you keep feeding resentment, you already know the cost. You lose sleep over conversations that are already done. You miss present moments because you're stuck in past ones. You make today's relationships pay the bill for yesterday's pain. You let people who hurt you once keep renting space in your head for years. And remember, life is not that long. Memento Mori is not there to scare you. It's there to wake you up, to remind you. You have a limited number of days. Do you really want to spend them rewatching the same painful scene? Marcus Aurelius, one last time, wrote, "You will give yourself relief if you do every act of your life as if it were the last." So here are your 3 main takeaways. 1. Name the wound, not the enemy. Be honest about what actually happened and how it made you feel. 2. Use Memento Mori to shrink the drama. Ask, if today were my last day, would I give this my time? Most things become smaller instantly. 3. Separate justice from rumination, then release on repeat. Take real action where you can. Let the rest go again and again, with tiny rituals that remind you, this is my life, my time, my peace. Punchline. I want you to remember, resentment is when you let someone live in your mind for free. Memento Mori is how you finally ask them to leave. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me one thing. What's one resentment, big or small, that you're ready to start releasing today? You don't have to share details if you don't want to. You can just write, a family thing, or something from work. What matters is that you name it to yourself and decide it doesn't get to own you anymore. If this video helped you feel even a little lighter, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. This channel is all about Stoicism for emotional control, not as theory, but as daily tools for your texts, your arguments, your tiny dramas, your real life. And if you know someone who is stuck replaying old pain, maybe share this with them. You never know. This might be the moment they finally put one heavy story down. Remember, you don't control how long you live, but you do control what you give your heart to while you're here. Choose peace over old grudges. Choose the life in front of you. And as always, breathe, notice, and take back your mind.